Hello and welcome to the Soul Sync podcast. I'm psychic medium Jason Paul, and you're in the place for the seekers, the sensitives, and the people who have always felt there's more to life than what we can see. Now, in today's conversation, I want to ask you, first of all, what does it mean to really make a pact with the spirit world? Not in a dramatic Hollywood sense, not candles, thunder, and someone whispering Latin in the corner, although, let's be honest, I'd probably still quite watch that, but in the quiet, life-changing sense. The kind of pact that happens when grief has cracked you open, when someone you love has died and the question won't leave you alone, which is, where have you gone? That very question sits at the heart of this conversation with Danielle Nijhuis. Danielle is a medium from the Netherlands whose journey into mediumship didn't begin because she wanted a title, a platform, or indeed a spiritual career. It began with loss, a sudden passing, a very deep grief, and a search for answers that religion, counselling, and the ordinary explanations of life couldn't quite satisfy. In this episode, Danielle shares how that search eventually led her into mediumship, trance, healing, the Arthur Findlay College, and some truly extraordinary experiences with physical mediumship. But I'll tell you what really moved me in this conversation was the moment she describes receiving the answer she had been searching so hard for. An experience so powerful, so personal, and so healing that she made a decision. If the spirit world could give her those answers and give her that, then she would do her very best to serve that world for the rest of her life. And I think that's what makes this conversation so truly beautiful, because beneath the stories of seances, guides, trance, healing, and spirit communication, this is a conversation about love. Now, I know myself being a medium, love does not end at death, and love continues to reach for us. And we know that because our loved ones come through. And love, but when it touches us deeply enough, can ask us something more. So today, I'm joined by the lovely Danielle for a conversation about grief, mediumship, healing, physical phenomena, spirit guides, and the moment that changed the course of her life. Danielle, welcome to the Soul Sync.
Thank you for inviting me, Jason.
Oh, it's lovely to have you on. So you are a medium. And I know trance and healing are big passions of yours.
Absolutely.
So I guess, first of all, I wanted to go back in time because when you was 24, tell me about what happened at that time, because that sounded to me like the moment everything changed for you.
Yeah, if we go back a little bit further, I was quite sensitive as a young girl, and people would say that I was a natural intuitive. But at the age of 24, somebody who I really deeply loved passed suddenly to the spirit world. And you can imagine that if you are so young, and I think for all people who lost someone, life is changing, because I was wondering, where's this person going, and what is happening after death? So that was the question that brought me on a search. But that was the extremely change in my life path in that time.
And what happened from there on in? Because it sounded to me from reading the notes here that became a search for you for the spirit world.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't exactly a search to the spirit world. It was a search, where's the person? Because I was raised up as a religion person, and I was taught and learned that there was a God, and it doesn't seem very fair at that time that if a God is existing, why you are so confronted with the fact that somebody who's so close to you passed suddenly to the spirit world without any answerings on it. So my search was not to be involved with the spirit world. It was to, I think, heal myself and to accept and understand what is it? What will happen then? You say goodbye to a physical body. But I was just keep on questioning, is this everything? Is life really stopping after this passing and losing the physical existing?
It sounded to me like religion wasn't feeling right to you. It wasn't aligning.
No, I missed things. If you go to church, I was raised up as a Catholic. You have this priest standing in front of you, reading from a book. And even as a young child, I had this question, why is it like this? And who is saying this? And why is it saying like that? So I always had this question marks behind things and this curiosity about, okay, this is told, but is this the truth?
Yes. Well, I never went to churches a lot when I was young. I did go to some services, but I was never raised particularly religiously because my granddad was a medium. He was a spiritualist. He went to spiritualist churches. Mm-hmm. But in the occasions that I did, I would just not find any of it believable. And I would be asking questions. And I feel that when there was just something, to be honest with you, I quite kind of found the whole church environment very boring. Every time I went to a service, I thought this is very long and painful was my kind of view as a child. But what sort of questions was you asking as a child? What was it that was making you sort of ask these questions?
Yeah, just to bear in mind that in the Netherlands, there was not, as you know, how it is in the UK with spiritualist churches. So I was raised up in a Catholic family. So we went to Catholic churches. And one of the questions I really deeply had was, if you pass to the spirit world, you are in heaven and everything is at peace. But is that the truth? How can it be in peace then there if somebody is having a horrible life or is not a good person? Is there judgment? And they're talking about heaven and hell. And what is hell then? So I had all these questions about, okay, you're going to church, you did something wrong in your life, you're going to sit with a priest, and the priest is going to make you holy again, and all your sins are okay now. And that doesn't fit with me. I thought, how is that possible? Where is the personal responsibility then? So
it sounds like the questions were like the same as my kind of questions, which were connected to that of the kind of sin, what happens to a bad person? Okay, I have to live within the commandments. I don't really sort of understand that. Okay, if heaven is heaven, what is it that decides specifically on which one you go to?
Yeah, and how does
Am I going to be knocking at the doors of heaven? And, I was probably thinking, well, if the rules of religion applied, to be quite honest with you, I'd be turned away at the gates of heaven, probably to go, for being naughty in my life and doing things. I'd probably be turned away and, made to go down the stairs to wherever it is that would be.
Really funny. So, yeah, I think we had the same questions then. I only wish with everything I know now that I knew about spiritualism much earlier in my life. It does make more sense for me that mediums are not something to be afraid of, or not a mystic in a dark way, how people will see that, and that mediums are normal persons.
Indeed. So you had this kind of moment in your life where, as you explained, a family member of yours passed away. You had greater questions then about life. Again, that was kind of very similar to my journey. It was questions about my granddad and him being in the spirit world and so on. So I can relate to that. So you sort of came across mediumship, and how was it that kind of evolved for you? What have you learned along the way of your journey? Because you've done a lot, and we'll go into it in more detail as we go along.
Yeah, I did a lot. I had experience after this person passed. I had experiences. So I saw things, the lights came on and off, and I hear outside like objective words. And I really thought I went crazy. I really went crazy. So firstly, I went to doctors to talk because I need to be normal again, and I have something is wrong in my mind.
What reception was you met with there?
What? Can you repeat?
Well, what was you when you went to the doctors? What was their kind of?
That I was very sensitive and emotional and too sensitive for things, and I didn't accept the grief behind it. So, as I mentioning in my book, because I wrote a book, grief is something that is so difficult for everyone because there's no one way to work in grief, because professionals who are grief counselors have this linear way of how to go into the process, but it's such an individual process. So I found answers, but there were still questions, because with all these counselors and meetings I had, this answer, where are you now, wasn't answered. So I went to a demonstration of mediumship. And I can tell you, my eyes were wide open, and I went out of the demonstration. I didn't receive a connection that night, but I thought, oh my gosh, if this is possible, maybe I can have a sign of this person. Maybe this beautiful butterfly will come on my shoulder and tell me you're there. Because I didn't have any knowledge at that time. So I had this luck. One of my teachers in intuitive workshop told me to go to José Gorsalk in Netherlands, and she was a former tutor on the Arthur Findlay College. So it is on the other side of the Netherlands, and I live near the border of Germany. So I went there for 2 days, and the first day it was just a little bit of psychic, and that was very natural and really easy. Read some pictures, and I had information, and I thought, oh, well, this is easy peasy.
It was flowing that day. It was flowing.
But the next day, it was the most interesting workshop day, because that was about connecting to the spirit world. So that was a day that the person I lost was, I think it was 2 years after the death. I went to that day. That was the same day of his passing. And the husband of José said, okay, we're now going to do demonstrations. And Danielle, you are going to do it first. And I did not know what to do. So I was just standing there, and the husband of José were telling all explanation of what's going to happen. And I was standing there, and I said to him, do you have a moment? I said, what's going on? I see all stars around one person, and there is a lady coming forward, and the whole story started to come. And the husband of José was looking at me and saying, okay, you already have contact with the spirit world. And I said, I don't know. So from that day and that experience, seeing somebody with my eyes, not in my mind, just without my mind. I saw it and I thought, ooh, this is interesting. So it gave me more questions in hunger.
More questions than answers in a lot of ways.
More questions than answers. But so what is going on with me? What is this? So I went to different workshops in the Netherlands with different teachers. And then in 2012, finally, I went for the first time to the Arthur Findlay College. And it was a week with Paul Jacobs. And I was completely expecting that I was in the group with Paul Jacobs. And I think the spirit world knows better what to do than I do. So I end up, the Arthur Findlay College, you have this hall and you have this paperwork where in which group you are. And I was standing there with a friend and he was with Paul Jacobs and I didn't see my name. And then suddenly there was this little paper with the name of Glyn Edwards. And there was my name. And I said to my friend, who is Glyn Edwards? I've never heard of this man. Okay, let's see what will happen. And I came into the sanctuary, sit there with experienced trance and physical mediums, really blonde, didn't speak very well English, sitting there. And he said, so you're all interested in trance and physical mediumship? Okay. No, I'm not. I'm here to learn more about standing on a platform and understand how to communicate with the spirit world and find my answer. Where is the person who passed to the spirit world? So, and that's the start. It starts with Glyn Edwards.
I obviously myself never had but he passed away before I even came into my journey of mediumship, but his books are amazing. And, I've heard so many stories over the years about him. And actually I found his books and even his tapes he did, the Sitting in the Power tapes, they really helped me to understand at the beginning, what is it that I'm actually trying to do? So I can't imagine what it must have been like for you actually to have met him and Finn.
I made an agreement with him because I was really scared, because I did not know what trance was and I did not know what physical mediumship was. I just
gone to the college for the first time expecting just to be understanding a little bit about how messages come through on platform, to be sitting there doing physical mediumship.
And even there was a physical seances that week. So it was, I fell into the butter, so to say, with everything. And I made an agreement with him because I say out loud, I don't belong here in this group. And he looked at me and said, oh, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't. Oh, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't. I'm scared. I don't know what to do when I close my eyes. What happening? And then he said, okay, you can try it for 3 days. And if you're still scared, you can go to Paul. And I never left.
That's beautiful. Because trance has been a massive, part of mediumship in your life for a long time now, because I think it said in some of the notes here that you kindly gave me that you've been in a crazy amount of seances over the years. I've not really done many, to be honest with you, because it's not really something I've had the opportunity to do. But I could just imagine the energy in that kind of thing to just be incredible.
It is. And I really know that I was lucky. But I think if I go back in time and the amount of grief I had and anger and not understanding it and being angry on God for who God is, then maybe being angry on myself because I'm part of God, but I did not understand it at that time, that it was the spirit world who did their very, very, very best to help me forward, to come over the drama, so to say. So it's all the air guards needs to go to the spirit world for what they have done for me to help me to the point where I am now.
We'll be right back.
Hello, my darlings. I'm launching a brand new monthly newsletter. Think of it as SoulSync in your inbox once a month. Or we'll be like pen pals. I'll tell you what I'm up to in my mediumship, what I've been doing over the month. There'll be free meditation downloads, events. Sign up jasonpaulmedium.com down at the bottom of the homepage, and I'll see you there. How would you, because a lot of people who are going to be listening to this podcast are going to be thinking, well, how have the spirit world helped you?
As I said, I have visited many seances. And of course, with everything we do in mediumship or in involvement, we are making our own choices. So I had this pull towards trance, and I had this pull towards being part of a seance, and had this pull of reading about the pioneers of the past. So if we look back into spiritualism, back in time, it was trance and physical mediumship, those home circles where, for instance, with Ursula Roberts, the communication, and Helen Duncan and Estelle Roberts. So I was really fascinated about it. And I was lucky I was in a physical seance at the Arthur Findlay College with Scott Milligan. And when I came back to the Netherlands after 1 week Arthur Findlay College, it took me 4 weeks to come back and land on my feet again, because I thought life was really strange after 1 week of that stuff. So I even doubt about my being a mom. I thought maybe I need to have wings and being in the spirit world, because I really missed it. So I searched myself for trance and physical mediums in the Netherlands. And at that time, there was a physical medium from New Zealand coming 4 or 5 times a year to the Netherlands, David Thompson. And Dave Thompson and Scott Milligan knew each other from the past by sitting in the John Austin circle. So I was so lucky that I could make the decision, and I could afford it, because it's costing money, guys, to invest in your mediumship, that I took classes and that I was involved within seances. And every time when a guide or from Scott or from David communicate, they always communicate to me. And then particularly my dad was very interesting in, why are you sitting in this dark room with some red lights and you're talking about persons who materialize by ectoplasm, and you have these strange stories. I'm interested. Can I come along? And at that time, my dad was 65. And he said, I want to come and join. So we arranged it. I went to a seance of David Thompson with my dad. And my dad was an independent checker to check if everything was okay, no fraud, my dad. So we could sit in the front. And of course, it was very interesting for my dad to be the checker, to see everything was safe, no fraud, everything by rules. And then one of the guides, Timothy, came forward, a young boy, and he said out loud, where everybody could hear it, I'm looking for Danielle. And that was the particular way how the communication comes from the spirit world. They will never call me Danielle. They will call me Danielle. I even hear it in my mind if I connect to my guides. Hello, Danielle. So this is the way they approach me. So I was waiting. There were 45 people in the room. I don't know, maybe more people named or Danielle. And then this person who passed away when I was 24 completely materialized, came to me, talked to me in the Dutch language. David Thompson is from Australia, doesn't speak any word of Dutch. He touched me, he kissed my forehead, and he apologized to my dad. That was the most important healing within my grief that happened. At that time, of course, I was mesmerized by what happened. And 45 people were there. They heard it. They felt it. They felt the change in the vibration. And they heard me all cry like a baby. And at that time, after that seance, I took a decision. So, if the spirit world gave me the present of answering my question, where are you? And you come back, because ectoplasm is something that comes from the physical body, and there are just a few physical mediums in the world. And the spirit world took their time to help me forward, to bring this person back to me. It was just for 5 minutes, but that was long enough to say, okay, I accept. I'm a medium. I'm going to do my very, very best in every way I can for your world, because you gave this person back to me. And that became a pact.
Do you know, you touched my heart, because I have kind of said a similar thing to the spirit world at one time myself. And I kind of said, well, if I, I'm going to do this, then, I just remember one specific time years ago where I said, look, if I get a sign from the spirit world from my granddad, I will definitely 100% commit to being a medium. And then I got the kind of biggest slap me in the face sign I could have possibly got from the spirit world. And I said, but it took me a long time to even be able to say I am a medium. I would always say I'm unfolding my mediumship. I'm developing it. I would never actually say I am a medium. So it took me quite a big moment, because I had a lot of self-doubt along the way as well about, can I do this? Am I able to quiet my mind enough to even meditate and things like that over the years? So I can relate to you in that regard.
Yeah. And I think when we speak to many people who are in their involvement, we all have a story.
We do.
We all have a story, and there's always a story from the spirit world behind it.
There is. And it's interesting when you are in those types of environments as well, just how many, a lot of the time, common threads there are. And often we've trodden a hard old path to get to that point of being in that kind of environment. The physical mediumship, you mentioned as well that there's only a few, in the world at the moment. And that's such a great shame. I hope it's, something that isn't going to sort of become extinct, as it were, because, the amazing things that can happen through the healing physical mediumship, the sort of psychic surgery type stuff is such a shame, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think that, and I'm not sure, but it's just a feeling that the spirit world is adapting for what is needed in the world. And
what do you think that is at the moment?
Healing. A loss of healing.
Yeah, I feel that authenticity as well with people. It's, people need to be able to speak their truth now. I feel we've kind of gone through a stage of people speaking loads at the start of social media, using it for everything, to now being quiet. And it's a very complex world we live in now, I feel. And I feel especially for young people. Indeed.
Yeah.
No, it's not easy. So tell me about your book and the contents of which, because
Your guy John seems to be a busy man, doesn't he? Ha!
He is.
From the sounds of it here.
He is, and he's very honest. And I think I know him all my life. And obviously, by the time of learning within the Spiritualist National Union to be certified, where I choose to become involved in healing mediumship, as it felt so deeply, strongly connected to me, again, for what the spirit world have done to me. And going back in time with Glyn Edwards, I heard this voice. From that week on, I heard this voice. But going back in time, I heard this voice for a very long time. But, I'm just Daniela. I don't know. I am making it up in my mind. And by sitting with Glyn, understanding how important it is to have a home circle and to sit, I came back. Took me 4 weeks to adjust back into normal life. And then I started to sit in circle since then, 2012. And by allowing it to happen and giving the spirit world the space, suddenly John introduced himself by communicating, and he gave information about his physical life when he was in the earthly world, and my circle members found information about him to validate the information. And then he kept on talking about writing a book. And I can tell you, Jason, I can talk a little bit English, but writing things is not so easy as people think it is, because I have dyslexia, or how do you say?
Dyslexia, yes.
Yeah. So you can imagine that when a word is on the paper and I have these words in my mind, it's going to be totally different in a book. So I kept on writing the last 7-8 years. And what we have done is in every circle, in every home circle, we record all the communication with my circle members and John and others, because there are more in my spirit team in the circle. And then the last 4 years, when we're having services and we have guest mediums from the UK, every time my grandfathers came, and every time there was this thing about writing a book. And every time I said, no, I'm not going to write a book. I'm not. Who wants to read a book from me? What's the interesting aspect of reading a book? There are so many books about mediumship. What's the difference then in my story? So I made an agreement with John, and I said, okay, if you want me to publish a book, I want you to be involved within it. So what we have done is wrote the book. I have it here. It's in Dutch on the moment. We are working on a translation in English, medium between the two worlds. And in a part of a book, there are a lot of questions my circle asked to John, and with the answers who John gave about life, about what the spirit world thinks about euthanasia.
Oh, euthanasia.
Thank you. Or why is there life and why is there death? How does guides work? What's the purpose? How is mediumship working? And obviously, it's a very vulnerable book about my life story, because this is the first time I wrote what happened and what made me a medium. And I have done many, many things, as I also worked 10 years on television in the Netherlands as a psychic and medium.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, I did.
interesting,
I
isn't it?
did. Yeah. So I have a lot of experience with the spirit world.
How did you fall into that, doing that on the
I
TV?
don't know. That's a side story. No, when I came back from the Arthur Findlay College, my husband said to me, maybe you need to practice. I said, maybe, how do I practice then? Nobody knows me. I'm living almost in Germany. Nobody knows who Daniela is. And how do I practice then as a medium? Because in the UK, you go to church, you go to circle. And in the Netherlands, you what can you do then? So there was this question of a program who needed psychics and could do it by telephone. I thought, okay, maybe I can contact them. And I was invited to come to a place in the middle of the Netherlands and do readings to check if the talent was a really potential. And it became a potential. So I could do it on the telephone. And, people will think things about it. But, in this time, you have these psychic mediums who are sitting on TikTok doing their readings.
Well, I used to do the telephone lines, the premium rate telephone lines when I first got into it because I wanted experience. And I'll tell you what, as soon as I logged on the telephone, log on, instantly calls coming through all the time. To be honest with you, I found it a bit overwhelming. I'd sort of put myself on for business and my phone wouldn't stop all evening. But I would only get the love. I was like the love doctor. All my calls, every single call was a love call, relationship call. That was all I specialised in. And the problem was I'd get people calling me up, the same person calling me up again and again and again. And I sort of felt that you don't. I understand why you're calling, but they don't want to hear. They want to hear what they want to hear.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and I took it on the same way as an experience and to learn about how is this energy center working with my sensitivity by only a voice. And then on one day after, I think, 3 years, the boss of the program called me. And he said, I want to invite you to come to the studios to do live readings. What? I said, okay, let's do it. So I traveled by train to Amsterdam, came in the studio, fully in makeup and hair. I looked amazing, Jason. I was young. And then after 1 year becoming a regular guest on the table, they asked me to be the presenter. I said, oh, what? Okay, so I became the face of the program in the Netherlands, and I did that in total for 10 years.
Wow.
And
we have someone in the UK called years and years ago called Mystic Meg. She used to be on the National Lottery with a massive, great big crystal ball and she'd do your fortunes. I used to like Mystic Meg. My granddad used to like Mystic Meg.
I never did that. Yeah, I think I showed in the Netherlands that it is possible to communicate with a loved one. I was known for that. Okay, yes, of course people will ask things about their future, but I can't tell anything about your future because it's up to you. It's up to your choice. But I have here your dad, and your dad is telling me information and giving you forward this. So I became well known in the Netherlands. And after 10 years, it was enough because I had different plans and I did the education courses in England and was really determined to get my CSNU in healing. And then suddenly I was asked if I was open to do a course online on teaching. And I did that. And then I thought, now I have it online. I really want to have it in the real world. So I did an upgrade, went to the UK in COVID time. And now I'm working on hopefully doing my board this summer on DSNU and healing. So I'm still learning and learning because it's an everlasting, ongoing process. You're never done.
You're never done. I totally agree with you. I feel that you only just develop more, don't you? And you never stop learning, especially in mediumship. Tell us a couple of the questions then that John got asked. I'm curious to know a couple because as you was
I have the book here.
That's very handy. Very handy. I thought there was a couple as you were talking that sounded really interesting, actually.
It's long answers. Sometimes long answers. Now, one part of the questions of my circle members were about guides. And I need to translate it now from Dutch to English in a fast way. And
I put you right on the spot now, haven't I? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. The question on John was, what are guides? And John's answer was, when you are hearing the word guides, you think of a leader who is walking on front and somebody who is unfolding your pathway. And in a certain way, that visual you have about us is true, but we are not your leaders. We are just friends. We are souls from love. And we decided to help you and guide you in part of your life with our wisdom to be at service of your journey in the physical world. Every soul that is born is not coming alone. Nobody is walking the earthly life without guidance on earth. From your first breath, there are guides, some close, some with a distance. But we are always connected, and we are not here to force you and not to say to you that you need to make choices on the road because your free will is holy. What we will do is inspire you, softly and gentle push you and remind you of who you really are. In the spirit world, there are many tasks. Some guides are helping you to protect. Some are here to guide for healing. And some others are there for education or inspiration. We choose from our consciousness on which loving task we take. Because for us, there's always also growth. To work and guide with you, we are learning, we develop, and we are deepening our love together. So I choose conscious to work together with Danielle in her mediumship. This was not something coincidence, I think.
It wasn't a coincidence.
Yes, but it was an agreement of the soul that already exists in front of her birth. Our cooperation is based on trust, friendship, and the communion desire to bring light on the world. So this is a part of it. And it's going on in 242 pages.
Blimey, you and John have been busy, haven't you?
Yeah. It was 7-8 years work, and then making it together as one was a year. And if you look at the front of the book, you have this door. And I didn't want...
I think it's beautiful artwork. As I was looking at the front of it, I thought it was so striking.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Red is one of my favourite colours. It grabs my attention.
You know, red is the colour of the power. So, yeah. And I said, I don't want angel wings. I don't want heaven stairs. I just want to be normal because mediums...
Yes, I don't want wings. I don't want halos. I don't want crystals. I don't want sage. I don't want lavender.
No. Be normal.
Breaking all the moulds. I like that.
Yeah, just be normal.
Yes. Well, do you know what? I wish you the very, very best with the book. It's absolutely amazing. If you do want to find out more about it, it sounds like an amazing read. Just go to the show notes.
It's in Dutch on this moment, and we are hoping...
Oh, no. I've got so upset about that now.
Yeah, we're working on it to have it translated.
Watch this space.
Before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year. Well, when it does come out, because people will still listen to this episode for a very long time afterwards, it will be there. So if you're listening further into the future, it's out now. So do us the wonderful favour then today of leaving us on a final thought.
What I really want to bring forward to those who are listening, that mediumship is not a gift. We all have a story in life, and your story is personal. And it doesn't matter where you are in life, the spirit world is always walking with you. And if you have the desire to investigate your own sensitivity or your intuitivity, or try to develop your mediumships, go for it. Even when you're doubting things, know that the journey is a wonderful journey to find your true self. And that's worth of everything.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on to the Soul Sync.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason, for allowing me, for having me.
The journey of mediumship really can bring about a lot of self-doubt, and the spirit world are around us all the time. It's a frequency. It's not somewhere up above that you have to reach out to. It's about just attuning. But in this modern world we live in, there's so many distractions. Our mind is so busy, and you've got to make that time to sit in the stillness, because how the bloody hell can you feel anything from the spirit world if indeed your mind's always going on? And there's even been times where I felt that the spirit world weren't there. I didn't feel anything when I'd be sitting, and it's not because they wasn't there. I know that right now, but it's just I wasn't in the right place mentally, energetically, and mediumship really puts a spotlight on that. So until next time, lots of love. Goodbye.